If dealing with assassination attempts while running for president wasn't enough, there's now new threats against President Trump's life. President Trump is dealing with more death threats from the country of Iran. However, now that he's president, he's able to safeguard himself in a way he wasn't before. Earlier this week, President Trump threatened the extinction of Iran if they carry out their plot to have him assassinated. President Trump warned that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. Trump also took bold steps on the international stage, issuing executive orders to withdraw the United States from the United Nations Human Rights Council, cut funding to the UNRWA due to its ties to terrorism, and initiate reviews of U.S. involvement in UNESCO and its broader relationship with the United Nations as a whole. Our allies, Israel, also announced today they are pulling all funding to the United Nations Human Rights Council because they don't see them doing much good in the world for the amount of money they've been receiving. Now, in regards to the future of the heavily contested Gaza Strip, at a joint press conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, President Donald Trump said the people in Gaza shouldn't go through a rebuilding process because they just live in misery. Trump suggested that Palestinians should resettle permanently in nice homes elsewhere. President Trump stated, "The United States will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all the dangerous, unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site. Level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings. Level it out. Create an economic development that will supply unlimited number of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job. Do something different." Now, Trump is getting serious pushback for his comments. However, I don't believe he means illegally stealing land from Palestinians in Gaza. I think he means, with the help of the United States and others, to remove all of the war debris, get the children out of danger, remove the downed buildings and the unexploded bombs, and get rid of Hamas once and for all. Then let the people of Palestine come back, rebuild their own city, live in peace and safety, a new city and a new clean area. So basically, I think what he wants to do is, with the help of neighboring countries, take what is just completely blown to hell, buildings, shrapnel, rebar, dust, unexploded bombs everywhere, and really clean that area up and then allow them to come back, rebuild, and live a peaceful life. Now, Democrats are, of course, angry. And now they filed articles of impeachment against Trump for saying he plans to commit genocide. He never said anything about genocide, killing more people in Gaza. In fact, he said over and over and over again, I want peace and I want the killing to stop. So these people are just ridiculous. It's never going to pass. They're not going to get him impeached. And all it will do is virtue signal to the Democrats and waste American tax dollars. But from everything I'm reading about USAID, this is what Democrats are best at, wasting our tax money. While Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu initially fought for control of Gaza under Biden, he seems to be open to Trump's idea. Netanyahu stated, "I think it's something that could change history, and it's worthy of really pursuing this avenue." Now, this is because Trump is a boss. Trump wants peace in the Middle East. And if things ever escalate, I believe he's ready to shut it down. I highly doubt Iran will try to mess with the United States. And I highly doubt he will allow Israel to take over the Gaza Strip. Essentially, Benjamin Netanyahu, if he wants the help of President Trump and the United States, had to acquiesce to Trump's demands, and he wants this war over. He promised the Muslims in Michigan that it would end, and he promised the Jews here in the United States that it would end. And this is him making a promise and keeping a promise. Now, unfortunately, peace isn't the only thing that Trump has to bring back. He has to bring back common sense. Under the Biden administration, unfair transgender policies were forced down the throat of the American people. However, Trump is putting an end to this and all of the gender confusion education that's been happening in our country. President Trump signed an executive order banning transgender athletes from competing in women's sports, aligning with National Girls and Women's in Sports, an annual February event celebrating female athletics. Now, Representative Nancy Mace stated, "This executive order restores fairness, upholds Title IX's original intent, and defends the rights of female athletes who have worked their whole lives to compete at the highest levels. It's absurd that this was ever allowed in the first place. Biological men should never be allowed to compete against biological women, especially when the only change is a physical trait or the appearance of feminism. I feel bad for the women who had to deal with this as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris tried to force this on the American people. This isn't sexist. There is a huge difference between the biological makeup of men with testosterone and the biological makeup of women with much lower levels of testosterone. However, Attorney General Letitia James of New York, you know, the woman that instructed the Justice Department to unleash hell against President Trump, she's already instructing doctors, medical personnel, and state lawyers to ignore President Trump's executive order and continue the practice of genital mutilation of children and chemical castration if a child, their parent, or a school system deems a child as transgender. My guess is this will end up being a huge lawsuit, and the science is correct. Almost 90% of gender-confused children grow out of this, and a large portion of transgender Americans that transition, in the end, wish that they never had. So this is something that just needs to work itself out. I have nothing against transgender people. I wish them nothing but luck. But to force this on children whose brains haven't fully developed is wrong. Now, regarding the Biden administration's handling of the economy, the Government Accountability Office has reported that $236 billion was wasted in improper payments across 71 federal programs in 2023. That's a huge number. The GOA, or Government Accountability Office analysis stated, Mr. Musk has told administration officials he thinks they could balance the budget if they eliminate the fraudulent payments leaving the system. According to an office who discussed the matter with him, it is unclear what he is basing that statement on. The federal deficit for 2024 was $1.8 trillion. The Government Accountability Office is reported that the government made $236 billion in improper payments. Now, thankfully, Elon Musk has already turned his attention to the U.S. Treasury Department and its payment system, which handles the disbursement of trillions of dollars of federal money every year. According to a report from the New York Times, the Musk allies who have been granted access to the payment system were made Treasury employees, passed background checks, and obtained the necessary security clearances. While their access was approved, the Musk representatives have yet to gain operational control so that they can see everything. However, they have already been able to see enough to know that the U.S. Treasury payment system was full of corruption. Now, I'm going to tell you more about this, but first let me tell you about today's video sponsor. You should consider having some of your money and retirement in gold and silver. Not only was it one of the best performing assets over the last few years, but it's projected to go higher, much higher. With the way the US government spends and abuses American workers and the US dollar, you need a plan to have some of your money outside of US monetary system and US monetary policy. Gold and silver is an excellent option. Let my friends at Colonial Metals Group help educate you on the value of buying and holding gold and silver. I own it. I plan to buy more of it. I think it's a really great way to protect and grow your money. Now, I want you to visit colonialmetalsgroup.com/Stephen-Gardner or give them a call at 800-807-2143. Gold and silver has been around since biblical times, and it's only grown in value. So check it out right now. All right, now, as stated before, Doge recently gained access to the Treasury Department system, which disperses $6 trillion in money every single year. The amount of corruption is unbelievable. In the midst of the friction, most of Trump's nominees, however, have been able to get through. And according to Vice President J.D. Vance, he believes all of Trump's nominees will be able to get through. J.D. Vance stated, I think sitting here right now, I think we get every single one of our nominations through, which is a really, really big testament, frankly, to the president's political influence. I mean, if you had a garden variety Republican president, do I think we would be able to get all of these nominations through? No, I don't. It's us working the process. It's the president's political influence. It's his nominees working hard to help members of the Senate understand why they should be put through. Additionally, he said, Trump wants to fundamentally transform the people's government, to make it more responsive to the interests of the American people, to make it more responsive to the interests of citizens as opposed to the interests of non-citizens. And that's not an easy challenge. We are going to have backlash. We already have backlash. However, Pam Bondi was just voted in as the new Attorney General. And on her first day in office, Attorney General Pam Bondi has made a bold move by directing the Department of Justice to halt all federal funding to 220 sanctuary cities across the United States. You thought people were freaking out because Elon Musk discovered $1 trillion in fraudulent payments? Wait until 220 sanctuary mayors and governors freak out that they suddenly just had all of their money dry up. This action signals a sharp pivot in federal policy regarding immigration enforcement. Pam Bondi's directive not only targets the cities themselves, but also extends the review funding agreement with non-government organizations or NGOs that support and enable sanctuary policies. These policies are often seen by critics as obstructing federal immigration laws by limiting cooperation between local law enforcement and agencies like ICE. Pam Bondi's approach includes the possibility of legal repercussions for local officials who are found to be impeding immigration enforcement. This could mean that city and state leaders who have resisted federal directives on immigration could face legal challenge, prosecution, and yes, arrest. The move has been met with applause and criticism, reflecting the polarized view on immigration in the United States. Supporters argue it's a necessary step to enforce federal law and make America safe again, while many Democrat leaders say, hey, this isn't fair. We need that money in order to break the law and keep illegal immigrants in the United States. I'm also reading that Attorney General Pam Bondi is calling for the release of all of the names connected to Jeffrey Epstein, something Senator Dick Durbin and other Democrats have used their power to hide from the American people. She also wants to investigate the real story behind January 6th. Now, the CIA has often used the New York Times and other left-leaning media to leak stories, but it's now been proven that they are taking dark money from USAID. The US government gave the New York Times tens of millions of dollars over the past 5 years, despite paying relatively little money in 2021. For instance, in August of 2024, the federal government secretly gave the New York Times $4.1 million. However, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, that hopefully RFK Jr. will head, had secretly given the New York Times $26.9 million. Also, the National Science Foundation secretly gave the New York Times $19.15 million. What they're finding is USAID gives hundreds of millions or billions of dollars to groups. Those groups then give hundreds of millions or millions of dollars to other groups that then give money to other groups that then give money to other groups. We're finding that the Clinton Foundation was the recipient of tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer money. We're finding that George Soros was the recipient of tens of millions of dollars, the New York Times, Politico, and more. We're also finding that some of these groups, like Politico, that have been secretly funded by USAID, then took this money and put forward stories like the Hunter Biden laptop story is fake Russian disinformation. Our government has been using our money to secretly fund lies and propaganda against the American people. It's also been discovered that through Dr. Anthony Fauci and USAID, EcoHealth Alliance, NIH, that the US government unknowingly, through Dr. Anthony Fauci, secretly funded coronavirus research on bats in China and how to use gain of function to make those viruses more deadly. Literally, the US taxpayer secretly funded through Anthony Fauci COVID, which killed tens of millions of people. This is a disgrace. I am so glad that they are cutting off funding. You guys, this is disgusting to me. If you agree with me, type Y in the comments. And if you disagree, why are you watching this channel, right? Like, this is exactly what we voted Donald Trump into office. He is two middle fingers going right at Washington, D.C. I want the swamp exposed, and then I want it drained, and then I want it cleaned out and replaced with patriots, people that love America, American values, and this country. I don't want these piece of crap anti-American propaganda people running Washington, D.C. All right, I love you guys. Please give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, stay amazing, and I will see you